Welcome back to part 3, where we're actually going to get started in painting. I put something underneath this pad here so that it doesn't slip as much as it was trying to do before. So the first thing is I'm going to just get some thinner. This is basically to clean my brush, and I just put it in here so I don't make a mess. But I am going to fill this up, this pipette. And you'll see a link in the description. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna use one of these cups. I'm gonna use this white one. Let's fill it up with B. You can always use a syringe. They do make those syringes. The reason I'm going to start with B is because B is thicker and it will hold its shape better, and then that way I can eyeball better. If you're using a syringe, I don't think it really matters. So we have that much B. Now we need to match A. You really have to be precise, because if you're not, it will not cure. And when I say it will not cure, I just mean that it should set up in about 2 hours. 2 hours, it should really be fully cured. If you leave it overnight and you stick your finger in there and it comes back wet, I mean, something is not right. Also, you want to make sure that you do not use anything that may have something that, like a vinyl thing. Like, even though we have this glove say vinyl, they're latex free. Okay, we're gonna mix this up, and you want to mix it very well. It's very thick at this point. See how thick that is? Okay, so we're gonna take some of this. Let's bring this over here a little bit. There we go. Because this drips. When you find a better one of these, because this one drips. You basically, I can't give you a measurement. You have to eyeball it. Okay, so I'll show you what I think it should look like for when I want to paint. Getting in the corners here. Okay, now it's a lot thinner. Okay, so I'll move that out the way. Let's see, back in. Oops, here we go. So a little better. We're gonna use this. First, let's put on some gloves, because my paints are very messy. So I always get paint drips on the outside of my bottles, and they don't dry the way silicone dries. The first coat, in my opinion, when I'm doing an ethnic baby, I can't say for when, you know, people use different types of babies, different skin tones, but when I'm making brown babies, I have found that it is, the first coat just really doesn't show up. So I take this lid off, and I know I have this here, but we're gonna just pour some in here. How much did I pour in there? Just the right amount. That's all I can tell you. Can't give you any measurements on this. You're just gonna have to eyeball with me, because that's the most, I think, the biggest part of this whole process. It's just, you have to kind of go by what you feel. Okay, so this is why we're wearing gloves. That went into my little trash bucket. All right, well now what I'm looking for is not just viscosity, how viscous it is, which is, I just want to see how deep the color goes, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? All right, now we have our paint ready. Now let's grab a doll part. We're not gonna start with the head, we're gonna start with the foot. Now, just like I was saying before, we have to, this is exactly how I would do it if you guys were not watching me. I would go through and take off all of the lint. And I wear glasses and I can't see. So you guys will have to bear with me. Which paintbrush? This one? All right. Now I did bring also a paper plate. I use that also to pounce so I can save. The reason that we're using non-paper type things to pounce is because silicone is like jelly. It doesn't absorb. So when we're pouncing off items, we're basically smearing it off, is basically what we're doing. Okay. And I can tell you now, I use so much paper towels. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover the entire kit. This baby has a very nice pink Caucasian skin tone. So for people who are gonna do like a Caucasian baby, it doesn't hurt to do this brown, because this, like you can see here, we're bringing life to this baby. We're not turning him brown at this point. And we really don't have to use this pouncing sponge, because really all we're doing is distributing the first coat, which we will call the base coat. Okay, we're gonna make sure that we don't have any stuck in the little wrinkles. Okay, there is nothing in the toes yet, but we're just gonna make sure that That don't happen. Not on my watch. What do you think? Now we're going to try not to touch it and rub off our work. Let's move up a little bit. All right, time to let him dry. Yeah, let's compare him. It's the first coat. Let's do this one. I'll do this one off camera. Okay, so I have painted all of the limbs for the silicone doll. And now we're gonna do Steven's face. I did go in and make sure that I have thoroughly cleaned him. Let's start by just putting these sticks in his mouth. I wish I had round sticks, round toothpicks, but I don't. That's just to keep it from sealing shut. All right. So what I've done is I've used this sponge so that it's pretty saturated. And then just do that. You're just kind of smearing it off. I'm gonna use a bigger brush. So let's just kind of clean this off a little bit. And we're just kind of dipping it into our thinner. And we're rubbing it off. Just do it twice. There we go. And then I just kind of fan it out a little bit. Make sure that it's separated. We're gonna use this bigger brush. Let me just go ahead and if your paint starts to thin out, it's not a big problem. Just go ahead and put more thinner in it. So while I do this head, let's talk about some things that I wish I had known or understood when I first started painting silicone, which is only like 3 dolls ago. So like what, a month ago? The weather and the temperature will really affect the cure time of your baby. And that means also of your paint. Sorry about that. I got a little distracted. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that heat will help cure your paint. So people will blow dry their piece, or they will put it in the oven at a warm temperature to warm up the silicone. It will make it set a lot quicker. By the same token, if you want to make your paint last a little bit longer, you can put it in the refrigerator. Now we're going to do this side. We're going to get in his ear. Okay. And it gets pretty heavy holding the head up. Oops, I meant to put it on here. Then we have little silicone balls that will appear out of nowhere. Now I'm taking the drier side and I'm just kind of patting off that oily residue. You see what I'm doing? See how that turned out? All right. Now, let's take this, we'll just use the same brush. Make sure we get into his ear really good. Take the wet side and get her good. Now, let's see. I'm gonna use this little sponge here. I just wanna dig in the ear and make sure that I didn't leave too much. It's not that important with this layer. This is just a base layer, and this acts as a great handle. Okay, now let's do the top of the head. You don't have to get the paint over every piece, because what happens is when you pounce, you're going to spread it out. Now we're just going to clean up. Okay, now we're going to do his face. Again, we are getting every inch of Steven. I would say that even if you were painting a Caucasian doll, you would still want to have at least a base coat of color over every piece of the doll. That includes the lips, the palms of the hands, the bottom of the feet. Oops. Wipe off some of this. We're just really using the wettest part of the sponge to... Steven, you tried to swallow that, didn't you, baby? Now we're going to use a drier part to once again pull off a lot of the excess wetness. So you see how the paint is collecting in the eyes. That's where you want to pay attention to all of these creases. So eventually that is going to affect the color, like right here, unless you want your baby to have some deep shadows under his eyes. We are wanting to get rid of that. Oops, look at that, that came off. Okay, same for his lips. We have to go back and check the ears, because like grease will rise. So even though you knew that you wiped this part off, you have to go back because it starts to rise and collect in very bad places. Now I have to hold him upside down so that my fingers don't leave a mark. And this makes a great handle, by the way. Okay. Use this sponge if you need to lift him up to take a look at things. Let's examine his face one more time. Oh. Silicone babies are a labor of love, folks. I'm telling you now, they are truly a labor of love. We'll let him dry. We used a lot of paint. We have like so much left over. And you'll not want to waste your paint. Believe me, it costs a lot of money. All right, just making sure I got every piece, and we're gonna hang them up to dry with the other limbs. We'll come back and take a look at it later.